Listen, call me half the way, I got a nutsack. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Gamescage. Today, and only today, we are here to talk about Sonic Frontiers. That's right, this game is officially half a year old. Can you believe it? We've had this game for this long. It's so weird because again, it feels like we've been talking about this game so long, but it also feels like it just came out. So it's very surreal to see that the game is now half a year old. So I figured, you know what? Hey, it's been a while since we just sat down, talked about, you know, the state of the game, how I'm feeling, how the people are feeling, and just like the honeymoon phase is over. You know, I feel like I've seen a lot of posts on social media that, you know, honeymoon phase is over. How do we feel about the game? And I thought, you know, let me just get it all out there. First of all, right, let's just talk about, you know, what the game has been through since launch. So since launch, we just found out actually recently, the game has officially surpassed 3.5 million units sold, which makes it the best 3D Sonic game selling wise. You know, it's not the best in the series yet selling wise, but in terms of 3D Sonic, is it officially the best selling one in the franchise, which is kind of insane to think about. It passed apparently Sonic Heroes, which I didn't even know until recently that Sonic Heroes sold like a crazy ton of copies, and I think it's because it was the first multi-platform 3D Sonic game. And you know, I know a lot of casuals that just adore Sonic Heroes, like casual people that don't play Sonic. Whenever they tell me about, oh yeah, I played Sonic Heroes as a kid, Sonic here, and they always fucking sing that theme. God, every time, bro, every time. It's very clear that not only amongst fans, you know, is it enjoyed in a lot of ways, and you know, it's continuing to sell, but I think, you know, we're starting to see the multimedia effect. You know, obviously movie 2 came out earlier that year. Ton of praise and love from people and ton of new fans going in. There's just a lot of buzz, I feel like, about this game. Now, obviously, you know, we all live in our circles, but it just felt like this game was constantly part of the conversation, and it constantly feels like a game that's coming up and being talked about. So, you know, and I'm glad, you know, like, we've seen a lot of big content creators play it. You know, we've seen a lot of love for the game. Even if it didn't meet the craziest critical reception, fan-wise, it met a lot of good reception. And it did, I feel like, in general, the media has taken a bit of a turn. You know, like, I think there's no longer this sort of big need to hate on Sonic that's always going to exist in some way, but I don't know, it feels like, you know, people are starting to root for the character, and I think, like I said, it's the multimedia effect. You know, Sonic Prime being fun for families, you know, adults are taking note of that and enjoying it. Sonic Frontiers doing well, you know, the movie, everything. I'm telling you, man, that multimedia effect works, and it makes people, you know, want to see this franchise succeed, and it's starting to, and I think that's a big reason we're seeing just a lot of new people getting in there. In terms of updates and DLC, I mean, we got a Christmas outfit for Christmas, which was cool. I'm a little disappointed that the costumes aren't as frequent as I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to just be a thing that they throw into the game every month or two. Even like the new update didn't even come with a new costume or of any kind. You know, I would have loved if the, you know, I thought these were just going to, you know, pop into the game because they're such an easy thing. And I think they're seeing how much the modding scene is just adding stuff. You'd think that, you know, they'd either like take inspiration or just be like, hey, let's just drop this because people are clearly liking this. Where's my low poly Sonic officially in the game? Come on, please, Sega. We also got the official update one, which was, you know, the sounds and speed and tests and all that stuff, which was really cool. You know, we got the jukebox mode, which was a really cool addition because, you know, they turned the game into a bit of a scavenger hunt where you got an excuse to run around the maps again, collect some songs, jam around with that stuff. We also got, you know, the boss rush and cyberspace rush challenges, which I also thought were like super fun. I love those. You know, they're just a good excuse to get into the combat and like try to learn and get into it. And honestly, like, just having a fun speedrun mode is cool. Like I said, could that have been something in the base game? Yeah, but I'm happy it's in there. Just a fun thing to go back to whenever I want. And they also added the photo mode. Cool addition. And that's really it in terms of what the game's got. Now, we know the game is obviously going to get, you know, its big update 2 and big update 3, which is going to be the story stuff. And we know update 2 is actually going to be pretty notable because Kishimoto has said a lot of the physics changes and updates to the game that they want to fix were going to be in update 1, but they decided to let it cook a little bit longer so they can nail it. So I'm very excited to see what update 2. I mean, we know people in the game found code for what is going to be a spin dash that's going to be in the game, and we know that they're aware of issues in the game that they want to fix and go back into. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to continue to do with the game as time goes on. And man, more and more update 3 has me so excited because we also found that Ian Flynn said recently on Twitter that update 3 is going to be written by him once again. Well, Sonic Team, you know, giving him what the story should be. He's sort of, you know, putting it all together, and he said it's going to be very important. So So I wouldn't expect this to be, you know, a little DLC side story piece. I think this is going to be substantial to the story in what could go forward with the series. And I'm so excited, man. It continuously is so cool to see how much they are taking the Sonic world seriously. I know Sega recently hired like a lore master. Like, they give a shit. Trust me. I think we know more than anything that Sega really does give a shit, and they want everything, you know, to be important because fans care. You know, the more they care, the more we care, and the more it shows, the more important it is to us. Now let's talk about the game itself. Now that we've gone past the honeymoon phase, I want to talk about something, for example, like replay value, right? How has it been to go back to the game, right? Because for me, I find myself nowadays just kind of opening the game, running around the open zones, doing some cool tricks, going into some cyberspace levels, maybe on my PC, you know, go on like boss select mod, play some of the Titans, and that's kind of it. I think because of the nature of the game being an open world game and it taking more time, I don't think it has as easily of a replay value as a game like, you know, Sonic Generations or like Sonic Adventure, because I feel like a lot of the older 3D Sonic games, you know, they were a few hours long. So, you know, you could just be like, you know what, tonight I'm gonna play through this entire game. Whereas with Sonic Frontiers, it's like, because you have stats that you level up, you know, because it was a whole story, a whole world you went through, you don't really want to replay it as much. That's sort of the nature of a lot of open world games. Yeah, I don't find myself restarting Sonic Frontiers too much, right? But it did what I always wanted and always said about the game, which is I always want a Sonic game that I could just jump into, run around, and have fun. And I think that's what I do with Frontiers. Like I said, I just kind of open the game. I'll just run around the open zone, do some cool tricks, do some cool run rails, you know, fight some enemies. I like going into actually the boss rush mode and messing with that. And obviously, you know, mods, right? Mods are a big part of Sonic. And the good thing about this game is mods are crazy. You know, people are doing shit like physics changes right now, obviously full of costumes. You've started to see people, you know, try to do importing mods where they're importing different areas. So we're starting to see the modding scene really bloom. And thank God, because a big part of what kept Sonic Generations alive for so long was the modding scene. So it's so good to see that people are really into Sonic Frontiers modding and they're continuing to support the game with that stuff, because that's also a fun way to replay. Because sometimes I'll be like, okay, someone added this cool mod, I'll just go in, jump around the game and have fun. But a lot of times, you know, like I said, I also end up jumping in cyberspace, right? Cyberspace has been something that is just so fun, playing the cyberspace levels. You know, I'll go in there, do a bunch of them, get out, you know. And I think it's because more and more, like, I feel like obviously those levels are the ones that remind me of those old days where I just want to replay a Sonic game and I just kind of boost through levels, you know, so it's easier to go back to that. But tell me what you think. Also, subscribe to your boy, support the content. Let me know again, what's the aspect you find yourself replaying the most? And I know there's been a lot of conversation about the Titan fights recently on Twitter too, and just in general, like the game's sort of lack of difficulty. And you know, I agree. Going back to the Titan fights, when you're max level, it is kind of ridiculous how quickly you can wipe their health. And again, they don't really damage you because you can just hold parry permanently. So I do hope in a future update, you know, on hard mode or something, it makes it so that parry timing is 2 to 3 seconds maybe, and just make it a little bit harder. And I hope in the next game, you know, like the Titan fights, like have more moves that you actually don't have to, like, you know, parry at certain times or dodge at certain times. Because like I said, nowadays you can just wipe the shit out of the Titans if you know what you're doing. But again, still some of the most satisfying bosses in the series. So some of the most hype, you know, the music is still fantastic. It's just like, that's what I just love about the game, is the vibe of it is so good. The action, everything it's so cool. It's such a cool game that I love, that despite all its issues and flaws, like, I don't know, it makes you just wanna play it, you know? And I will say though, story-wise, I do find myself not going back to it. Not because I didn't love it, but it's a game where, you know, a lot of the cutscenes are the characters having these conversations, and I feel like, you know, past the first 2-3 times, you know, you replay that, you're sort of done. You know, you're sort of like, I've heard this conversation, I want to skip it. Now, that's not the game's fault. That's like every game that has a massive story, but the cutscenes aren't like all these raw epic cutscenes that you want to like get to. You know, a lot of them, like I said, are just conversations that are fun or funny or cool, and they're not necessarily ones you want to go back to, you know. So whenever I'm replaying the game or going back into the world, I'm doing like, you know, cool island skips. I'm doing as much as I can in the Starfire Islands to sort of just progress, but I don't find myself, you know, giving a reason to go do the side conversations. But I do love doing the stuff in the open zones. You know, I do love running around that world. Yeah, even Rhea, I like running around Rhea Island, and the last one, Uranus. So just overall, right, I still love this game. And I think a big reason for it is just, I don't know, the energy it has. It's weird to say, right? I just love jumping into the game. And honestly, even if it's a game that's not like crazy in terms of replay, like, man, that was an experience, right? I would rather take a game that was like a hell of an experience the first few times than, you know, what we usually get with Sonic games. It's just like, here's a game that's a few hours long, you have a great time with, and you're out. Like this was a game that, you know, that experience the first time is such a big part of it. And it's cool that there's moments that you want to go back to. You know, I like that I can jump back into the combat. I love that I constantly want to go back to the Titan fights. You know, I just hope the next games, you know, double down on more fun areas for the open zones, and hopefully the DLC has a, you know, a fun open zone kind of thing. You know, make more platforming challenges so that I have more stuff to do in the open zone. Just have fun with it, man. To double down on open zone, but keep it more fun, because the idea of this action open world platformer thing is, I think, the future of platformers, and I think it's such a good idea, and I wanted to continue, and I'm very happy with it. So guys, let me know what you think about Sonic Frontiers half a year later. What do you think? Of course, let me know down below, comment, or subscribe, all that jazz. I'll see you all next time. Peace out.